Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Run Reviewer. Don't forget, if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe and comment and ask any questions you have about any of the content which I produce here on this channel. Without further ado, today I'm going to give you a review of 4 different super shoes which I love, and I'm coming from quite a bit of experience. I have done 38 marathons in the past year and a half and 31 marathons so far this year. Pretty much a marathon every week since about June this year, with a couple weeks off. My feedback obviously then comes from a lot of experience. Unlike a lot of other folks who do reviews here, I'm able to do A/B tests on the shoes which I do use. And I've surmised in this list some of my 4 favorite shoes, and I'll tell you why, and I'm actually going to stack rank them as well. So I'm going to put on my cap here and I'm going to talk you through these shoes. So let me chuck this on and let's get started here. Boom. So these are the 4 shoes which we're talking about today. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got a bunch of other shoes, but I want to focus particularly on these 4 pairs of shoes. And I'll explain to you each one to begin with. The first one is probably one of the hottest shoes of 2025 in terms of super shoes for racing. It's the Adios Pro 4 from Adidas. It features that light strike foam in it, and it has carbon rods down the bottom. I love this particular colorway, which is white. It's just kind of stunning. The thing that stood out for me the most about these shoes is the aggressive rocker at the front. When I first tried these out on the Gold Coast in July this year, it really struck me how awesome this particular rocker was. So when you do that movement, it really takes you off and guides you. The weight is also super light as well, but when I start comparing some of these other shoes, you may find something different. So this is the Adios Pro 4. The next pair of shoes is these Doughwin, which is Jog on Crago had recommended these. So I've done some jogs around the house. I actually haven't done a race, but I'm able to identify some opportunities and benefits of this shoe pretty quickly when I try it on and see it. And obviously this is very hard to get, well, it's impossible to get retail in a store. I managed to find this on AliExpress. This shoe is the lightest of all the shoes, and we'll talk through that in a little bit more, but this is the Doughwin Super F3. It's got a bunch of different names, but this is the particular shoe here. The next shoe is my super duper favorite shoe that I've used for many years, but I would say I now have a new favorite shoe, believe it or not. So I've run about, of my 38 marathons, 35 have been, or I'd say 33 have been in this shoe, and in particular, this particular colorway as well. So this model is a Saucony Endorphin Elite 1. It is the 1, not the Model 2. They no longer produce this shoe, so these shoes are a little bit like gold dust to get today. And this is Saucony's top of the range super shoe. And then the final shoe we're going to be talking about today is the probably the hottest, not the most used like this one, but probably the hottest, hardest to get super shoe today on the market, which is a Puma Fast R Nitro 3. And you can see here, it's got a very different foam to all the other shoes. It's got the aliphatic TPU. So let's get started. So before I even jump into this, I'm going to tell you what my favorite shoe is and the reasons why. So my number 1 favorite shoe today is the Puma Fast R Nitro 3. I've got 4 pairs of this now. I'm 5 pairs, I think, actually. I'm absolutely in love with this shoe. My second favorite would have to be going back to my Saucony Endorphin Elites, number 1s. These are just a staple. They really mess up my toes. Mind you, these ones are also messing up my toes a bit, but they are my staple shoe, which are so much fun to run in. Then if I had to rank these 2 remaining shoes, I would put these ones here, the Doughwin Super F3s, up there, and then I would finish off with the Adios Pro 4. And the reason why is the weight on these shoes is significantly lighter. I'm not sure whether these will actually go the distance of a full marathon though. So they're about even, both of these shoes, but the weight difference in these shoes is significant. These shoes feel a lot lighter, once I take this out, a lot lighter than these shoes. In fact, they almost feel like these are 50 to double the weight of this shoe. I mean, this shoe is just feather light. Okay, so let me talk you through each shoe first and why I like them. And I'll start with my favorite shoe first, which is the Puma Fast R Nitro 3s. The reason I like these shoes is a few things. When I try on a shoe, I'm able to ascertain whether I like the shoes pretty quickly. I've tried many shoes, like the On Clouds, like just so many different brands of shoes. And for me, the thing that is the number one thing for me is the rocker. The rocker has to be super aggressive. And when I say rocker, it's that toe off point when you jump on that shoe, and it's a different feeling to what you use for, say, your daily trainers, which are up there, my Evo SLs and my Nike Vomero Premiums. And the reason is, it's a different feeling. So when you get onto race day, a 5K full and so on, it's amazing. I've done 4 marathons in the last 4 weeks. So I know lots of other people talk about like, oh, but they've never actually run a marathon race in them. Very few people who are reviewing these on YouTube have actually run a marathon race in them. I can see why lots of folks say, I love it as a 5K shoe, a 10K, a half shoe, maybe not a marathon, because it is just so aggressive. I am absolutely certain if I race in this shoe, I will get a PB in a 5K. It's just such an aggressive shoe. And the stack on the front is nowhere near as thick as, say, the stack on the Saucony Endorphin Elite or some of these other shoes which are on the market. You can see here it's a slightly thicker stack on these, the Adios Pro 4. But this particular foam is a foam unlike you're going to get in all these other shoes, and that's a standout. I also own a Puma Fast R3, and it is nothing, absolutely nothing compared to this shoe. And I assumed when I saw the Fast R2 and I saw the Fast R3, I assumed this shoe was just going to be the same, meh. I might use it for a 5-10K, I won't use it for a full. Completely opposite. The ride on this immediately when I put it on was just wow. The only way to best describe this is like being on a pogo stick. You literally jump on. The pogo stick doesn't seem to have a whole lot of foam in it, but it does protect you. That cushioning, that springing impact literally comes down, protects your feet, and then springs you back literally like a trampoline. It's a feeling I've not experienced in any other racing shoe or any other shoe that I've tried on the market today. And it's just a testament to Puma and how they've built this particular foam. It's not ideal if you're a heel striker. So as you're striking late on the end of the race, like the 30-kilometer mark, it's far from ideal. But however, if you do happen to be a heel striker at that 30-kilometer mark, I would say this shoe is still ideal for the marathon distance, because it's going to give you that performance for that first 3/4, 2/3 of the race. And at the end, that pogo still at the front will still help you get over the line, and it's still going to help you get a better time than you having a shoe with more stability. For example, a New Balance SC Elite V4, V5, which has obviously that wider base. The other thing is the structure of the carbon plate. The carbon plate does have a hole in it at the bottom here, and I think having that bottom gives you a little bit more stability when you are landing, and this area here gives you lots of protection, particularly if you're a forefoot or a midfoot striker. I historically have been a heel striker, but I've now moved into being a midfoot striker, and I will be striking the shoe at this particular point here and then kicking off, as opposed to doing the heel strike and over. You'll see also here lots of people talk about this carbon plate, how it sticks out a bit. Don't experience, doesn't impact me at all. So that's the shoe. I've taken this, fortunately or unfortunately, it's got me a New York City Marathon qualifier for next year. So I ran fast enough in New York to requalify in these shoes. And I have to say it was effortless running in these shoes compared to other shoes that I have raced in. For example, the Saucony Endorphin Elite. In terms of effortless, in terms of the pogo stick effect, not the ride and the enjoyment of the ride. It's literally like a pogo stick, and it helps you go. My 2 marathons after New York was Allentown, Pennsylvania, which was, I would say, at least 50% trail, 70% trail. My 3rd marathon was 80% trail, which was Queenstown Marathon. And unfortunately, my 4th marathon in these shoes, which was last week, was Port Stephens Marathon, which was again about 50% trail, rivers and streams I was running through and so on. But the shoe has held up pretty well. You can see there are bits of whack where it's kind of been whacked up a bit in there, but the foam has surprisingly, and this Puma grip has, which is what Puma calls it, has surprisingly held up well. Obviously, you'll see some stones which have kicked back on the bottom of the shoe as well when I was running Queenstown, so that's chewed up a bit. For a shoe which is done now, I would say about 170 kilometers, it's holding up pretty bloody well. The upper looks pretty much close to brand new. I noticed this on the other part of the shoe, so that's kind of faded off a little bit there, but it's really only minor. So the upper pretty much looks like 80% of what it was when it was brand new. But this bottom here, you got some obviously bits where the stone have hit there, but the grip's held up pretty well. I've had stones wedged in here. You'll see it in this particular part of the shoe here. I've had a little stone which I've had to pull out, and it's kind of wedged in there and come out, and you can see here the foam here has been beat up pretty nice and good on obviously all the stones which I've been running on, and it looks like a little bit of the outline of the carbon plate which has been pushing through here as well. You can see that there too. But overall, the shoe has held up very well. I think the shoe can quite easily get 500-600 kilometers on it. Whether you're going to still get the same performance out of the foam is to be determined, but I would, if it's a goal race, I will stick to a newer pair. But if I'm just trying to wear out this shoe, I think this shoe is great to be going up to 600-700 kilometers, and then you can perhaps retire it to 5-10K speed racing, or gift it to somebody else and so on. In terms of like the fit of the shoe itself, I'm a men's US size 11. I find it can be narrow in the toe box, but as a wide-footed person, I'm a 2E in this toe. I've never had any hot spots, mostly because of this. Just this knit fabric is just so nice and comfortable. It has zero impact even on wide feet. So for wide-footed people, I think this shoe is genuinely actually extra fine. I try and stretch my bottom of my feet a little bit before I do my race, so I try and like squeeze out this part here a little bit just to loosen it up, and it helps me not get some stiff bottom feet for the first like half an hour when I get into a run. Like many other reviewers have said, the toe box is a little bit long, so you've got a little bit more space up the top end here, but it doesn't seem to impact me too much. I've chosen to retain the original laces, so they do have I guess, what do you call them, ridged laces, as well as these plain ones. I wanted to get these plain ones because I was coming off my Endorphin Elites, which were a little bit too tight, and they were rubbing me and actually causing me blisters and bleeding along here. So I like the stretchability of this whilst it's still being very secure. You can see the back, it's got some structure to the rear of this shoe, so that holds everything in place, and it's got a nice fabric surround here. So this upper is uber comfortable. The only issue I have is, and you'll see it here in my toes, is I've lost a few little, obviously it pushes forward because this toe is a little bit further forward than the other one, so it sticks up a little bit, and then it also rubs onto there. I lost that toe now due to the EE ones. So yeah, just a little bit of toe damage with these shoes, and it's come across here as well. It might be also down to the socks, so I may have to get a newer pair of socks. My socks, I put a lot of Vaseline around the sides of my feet before I put on the socks, so that actually caused my left sock to slide down with about 8 kilometers to go. So it was all kind of bunched up here, banging around when I was racing, and I didn't want it to impact my goal time. So yeah, so overall, these are my super duper favorite shoes. Let's talk about the Saucony Endorphin Elite ones, which are my second favorites, which are these shoes here. I have a brand new pair. You can see how much I love these particular shoes. These shoes are, believe it or not, pair number 7. I have about 14 pairs of these shoes. I number each of the pairs at the bottom. This pair of shoes here has about 350 kilometers on. This is a brand new pair. You can see what the usage is like. Obviously browned a little bit because I'm running in some dirt and mud and stuff like this. I've run in, oh gosh, Malaysia, Germany, Slovakia, Warsaw, Chicago, Toronto, all over the world in these particular shoes. I do notice there is a slight defect in this shoe. It's the first time I've had the defect in this particular model here. You can see the stitching here. It's ever so slight, but that little shorter area here where they've just stitched this a little bit closer to the top is what's causing my feet to blister up and obviously blood loss to happen here. I've not experienced this in any of my other 6 pairs, but this one here has been particularly painful. And it might have been because I laced it a little bit too hard to begin with, but I've not experienced this with other versions of this shoe, which I have in fact laced up. I might actually lace up the lower part versus the upper part for my next run. As with this shoe, the upper is very wide and generous. You can't get this shoe. You can probably get this on novel ship on the secondary market, but overall for a shoe which has done 300 kilometers, you can see my usage on this has been very, very minimal compared to the brand new one. I tend to kind of chew in this area here because I'm side striking and then toeing off on this particular point here. So this tends to get a little bit more usage. This particular area here also gets usage as well. But overall, this foam here, holds up really well. This foam here is called the Power HG foam. It's a unique piece of foam which is not found in the Endorphin Elite Pro 4 and the other Saucony range. They have another sort of foam for the EE2, Endorphin Elite 2, but with the EE1, this has a 95% energy return. So by energy return, I mean when you go down and bounce on here, it'll literally kick you back straight away. The rocker on this is well and truly one of the most aggressive rockers of shoes in the market today. Just the toe off in this is just extreme. It is so much fun. It's like literally wearing a Ferrari or driving a Ferrari when you put these shoes on. Absolutely amazing. This upper is like kind of like a fishnet stitch. It can be pretty it's been pretty good for me as long as I tie it down well, but I always have a few little minor toe issues, which I resolve by wearing a toe protector at the end on my two big toes. If you put too many toe protectors in, it then tends to expand your feet, and then you start getting issues with your pinky on the side there. They come in a bunch of different colorways, but as I said, unfortunately you can't get them anymore on the market on like standard retail. Some people have complained about this rear toe box being a little bit too the rear upper around the ankle being a little bit not so great. I actually really love it. I like how this pulls in and locks in the back of your feet, so it stops having too much movement there, but some people have said otherwise. I find the mesh upper is very good, particularly when I run in Southeast Asia where I might get lots of rain and humidity and so on. So it's very, very, very breathable, this upper, and as a result your feet get dry pretty quickly. And it's minimalist, right? There's lots of breathability in here, unlike a lot of other shoes in the market. Not much else to say about this shoe. Oh, the other thing is that carbon plate down the bottom. It's a forked carbon plate, so imagine this with forks like this, not the thin energy rods, but full flat plates with some space. And I find this helps particularly with stability if you aren't, striking right in the middle. I tend to strike like that on the shoe, which then gives me a little bit more stability and balance as I'm going towards my next step and take off. So definitely one of my super duper favorites, and the reason why, I've got another pair here, but I am torn because these shoes here are just like absolute rocket ships, the Puma Fast R3s. And yeah, so these are my super duper favorite. I'm going to take these with me to do Shanghai this weekend. I'm going to use them in Singapore, I'm going to use them in Penang, and I'm going to use them in Chiang Mai. And I think I'm then going to get close to retirement on these, because these will probably be at about 400 or so kilometers. None of these are goal races with the exception of Shanghai, but I'm coming off obviously many back-to-back marathons each week. So I think I'll be very ecstatic if I get like a 3:19 in that race without pushing myself too much. So I still have and it's not even pushing myself too much, I'm just too darn tired. But then I can then take Singapore and my other races a little bit easier, around a 3:29 time. So let's talk about these Doughwins. These shoes are absolutely really cool and really unique. I saw this from Jog on Crago, who's another YouTuber, does great content, also from Western Australia, like me, and Crago's the one who recommended this particular shoe. So very hard to find. Managed to find it on the market. It's a little bit confusing with the sizing, because they talk a lot about the EU sizing. This was the largest size I could find, which is like a US 10. It does fit more like a US 10.5 than a US 10, so it is a little bit bigger, even though they say it's smaller. It's a EU 44, UK 9.5. The fabric on this is literally like a very thin fishnet. It's probably even more fishnet than this, which is like a holistic plastic in the Endorphin Elite 1. This is just like literally like tiny shards of like fishnet surrounding the upper. I find it pretty rough. I can feel there's bits there which are going to be ripping me up. It's nowhere near as smooth as the upper in the Adios Pro 4. The upper in the Endorphin Elite 1 it looks like it's going to be rough on the outside, and it feels rough, but on the inside, the upper of the Endorphin Elite 1 is actually very smooth, unlike the outside. However, with this one, the texture on the outside is identical to the inside, which is rough, and I think this is going to cause problems if you have a higher foot, which I tend to have a higher toe as you're running, and you're gonna I know I'm gonna lose flesh at the top of my toes here, and potentially on the sides here as well. So I, like others say, I think this is perhaps a 5-10k shoe. I'm not sure I'm going to want to use this for marathon distance, but I will test this for marathon distance when I get back to Australia and in a non-important race, and see how I go. There's a carbon plate down the bottom. I'm not sure exactly how this carbon plate looks underneath, but it looks like a full carbon plate down the bottom here. Very similar in design to the Adios Pro Evo 1, which I do own a pair of. I've owned a couple pairs of, and I've raced a half marathon in those, not a full. But what I found with the Adios Pro Evo 1 is I started getting a hot spot on the toe here, and I didn't find the rocker as aggressive as the rocker I'm experiencing on the Puma Fast R3 and the Endorphin Elite 1, and even these Adios Pro 4. So it's very vanilla, this shoe. The reason why I think a lot of folks like Crago and other people who love it is they are, these folks, like, he's like a sub 3 runner, I'm like an early 3 runner, and he has like awesome racing form. I need to build muscle memory and focus on running when I do run, and if I get any assistance from the shoes, these shoes help me more with assistance. These are for the African runners, the Kenyans, the really top, when I say this, the folks who are running 240 marathons, 230 marathons, 245 marathons will get the most value, because they have the form, they've got the technique, they've got the skill in their own legs, and all they want is a super light, super critical foam racing shoe, which gives them the speed and performance they need with the stability of the carbon plate to give them the kickoff that they need as well. So, and everything it's just like not owning a pair of it's not like wearing shoes, whereas these ones, you know you're wearing the shoes and you know how the shoes are assisting you. Here you're using your pure form. So if that's a sort of runner you are, you will absolutely love these shoes. If you're like me, you won't be as in love with these shoes. This bottom feels like it has a lot of grip. It looks like they've just glued it on here, but it looks like it's held on pretty well. This foam is literally just pure exposed foam. I'm not sure exactly what this foam is, but it is like, they're well and truly the lightest shoe. I would say this is like 150 grams, if that. So, whereas this one's like 187, this one is, significantly lighter even than the Puma Fast R3. So give it a go if you can get it. The US 10 is about a US 10 and a half. This is like the biggest size I can get on the market on these shoes, and I think for me it's a good shoe, maybe a half marathon shoe, maybe a 10k shoe, maybe a full, to be determined. I need to do a full in this to give you more feedback, but there's no question these ones are absolutely amazing. The Adios Pro 4, so I've done some running around in these, but I've not actually done a marathon in this pair. I've owned the Adios Pro 3. The problem I have with the Adios Pro 3, the earlier version incarnation of this shoe, is the upper is very low, so I tend to always lose lots of skin on the top, and I find it a little bit narrow on the toe box for me. And if I size up to say 11.5 from an 11, I find then it gets a little bit looser, and I'm not getting any more of that roominess in the toe box anyway. So then I've just got a long loose shoe, which is a little bit annoying. Loose in terms of the length, not in terms of the width, and not in terms of the upper. I think Adidas have improved this with the Pro 4. Immediately you feel the soft fabric upper is just super plush, super comfortable. The foam on it is, the Lightstrike Pro foam is super responsive, very similar to the Evo SL in terms of bounce and responsiveness. The only issue I have with this shoe is it can be pretty squishy, and I like the firmness of my racing shoe. So that's the reason why I like these, and I like the Endorphin Elite 1 and the Fast R3. I find these are a little bit too mushy, very similar mushiness to the Endorphin Elite 1. Not as mushy, but still has that mushiness, and doesn't have that, you can see here the rocker is aggressive, but nowhere near as aggressive as that, because the mushiness takes over on this particular shoe. So this feels to me like a comfort shoe, a good backup racing shoe, but definitely not my go-to racing shoe for goal races, which would be these two. So I hope you enjoyed my reviews of my top 4 potential racing shoes, or the shoes that I think hit my top 4 mark. I'm going to start racing in these other 2 pairs, but let me know in the comments and feedback what you think. And if you like this content, please subscribe to the content, and I can go ahead and produce more and more content from you. So I'm Brian, Run Reviewer, Run Bry on Instagram if you want to see my 52 marathon journey. That's RUNBRY, and stay tuned. See you later and have a great day. Bye.